The New Orleans Saints, after a day off, were back on the practice field today as they continue their training camp, preparing for their September 13th opener with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Joining us now to talk a little bit about the Saints from SI Now, Sports Illustrated, of course, at Saints News, Forbes Sports, and more, is our friend John Hendrix. And, John, it's always a pleasure. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Ken, thanks for having me, man. I'm always glad to jump on your show and talk Saints football and anything else that comes up. Hope you're doing well, too.
Yeah, all's well. No complaints here. So we move along. And so far, so good with training camp. No real issues for the Saints. The protocols are extremely significant. The NFL, first and foremost, has the most resources, obviously. And the Saints have taken every precaution imaginable. And knock on wood, so far, so good, right?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's popped on the COVID-19 list or reserve list, as they call it now, has come off, whether that's a false test or a false net positive, whatever the case may be. I mean, that's good news for the Saints. And look, they've done a good job. I mean, Sean Payton getting the hotel. I know Miss Benson had helped kind of front some of the expenses for that, and I think it's the right call. And clearly you can see from Payton's model that the NFL is looking at, potentially adopting that bubble and doing a lot more with it. So, look, I mean, uncertain times, trying times, it's something we probably thought, back in March that there's no way it could affect the football season. But here we are in August, and training camp looks different. We've lost preseason games. We've lost the CFL. We're losing college football left and right. Sports that were supposed to happen, have been hit or miss. And, NFL's found a way to make it work. And so you just hope it keeps going. And obviously with no fans in the dome right now, for that week one matchup, it's going to look a lot different. But, we just got to hope that we can move into phase 3. And I think that'll change a lot of things for football and in particular the Saints in the state.
Of all of the levels of play, the NFL was always the most likely to play because of the very resources we spoke about and the money involved, more so than even college and certainly more than high school. So there's that. Meanwhile, today we get the report that the league is considering a bubble for the playoffs to protect everybody even more for the most significant games. And interestingly enough, it was none other than Saints coach Sean Payton who presented the idea as part of the competition committee previously. And that's an interesting concept, to say the least. It's pretty obvious that bubbles, by and large, have worked, whether it's the NHL, MLS, and, of course, the NBA. They have worked to this point.
Yeah, look, this is one of the reasons why Peyton is on the competition committee, right? And, it's made up of a lot of people. And, again, this is a good scenario to potentially have. And I think, again, you've looked at what the NHL has done with theirs. And, they've administered thousands of tests, and none of them come back positive. So that's always a good sign there. And, look, I think there's a lot of different things. Obviously, they expanded the practice squad. They made so many players now that are, that don't have to be, that don't have to have a crude season. They could be veterans and such. And, they make some some changes to how game day lineups are going to be. So, look, I think it's a good, scenario to have. Obviously, we don't want any type of bubble situation when that comes. But, look, I think that now's the time that you talk about it, because the NFL season is going to be here. It's going to move quickly, as we all know, and it'll be postseason before you know it. So good thing that they got smart people like Sean Payton on this committee to help kind of table those discussions and kind of bring it to the forefront to be able to, to preserve player safety, integrity, all that type of stuff that they try so hard in football.
As far as the team is concerned, and looking at what you're dealing with right now, wouldn't have said it initially, but maybe at this point, offensive line could be a concern. You got a rookie in Cesar Ruiz who looks like he's going to start at right guard. At this point, there's a reasonable possibility that Nick Easton would have to start at left guard because of Andrus Peat having a broken thumb, which is a concern. Talk about that, the possibility of having two guards that are relatively new. Easton, of course, started games last year when called upon, but certainly not the ideal situation if you have two different guards in there than the ones you envisioned.
Yeah, definitely a sad setback for Hendrix, signing that big contract extension with the Saints, and there were reports, and obviously he slimmed down a lot to play where he's at, and then you have this type of injury that happens, and the good news, it's not super serious, only going to miss a couple weeks, but that's why you have guys like Nick Easton on the roster. Again, the alternatives there. I mean, you could potentially have Will Clapp, but he's been more of a swing tackle guy. They use him in jumbo sets. As far as it goes, they got Patrick Omame that they can always slide in there too if needed. But that's the good news. And then with Ruiz, the good news there is early reports are that he's doing extremely well. And him and McCoy, obviously you think there was going to be this big center battle, but I think that's McCoy's job. They might try Ruiz. If we had, preseason and more of a sampling size, then you could probably get into the nitty-gritty. But look, I think with the Ruiz there, he's gotten high praise and compliments from Teron Armstead. He was picking up a lot of things from the virtual meetings and a lot of the different types of elements. And look, it says something about this Saints offensive line. I mean, this is their third straight year they're going in and putting a rookie on the offensive line. I mean, it goes back to Ryan Ramczyk. You got McCoy the next year, and now you have Ruiz. And, Dan Rushar, he doesn't probably get a ton of credit, but he does a lot of great things on the offensive line. And, the Saints, when they draft them, typically they're guys that are real smart and intelligent, and they can come in here and play and be versatile. And so, there's obviously some concern when you saw what happened last year against the Vikings playoff game and, mirroring against Falcons in that Week 9 matchup. And you just kind of hope that doesn't happen again. But I think they're a lot more equipped to handle it, if teams try to exploit that this season.
And then as far as Ruiz is concerned, the popular thought process was that he was better suited to play center, but clearly the lack of an offseason kind of short-circuited that. It's not as though you have a bad option in McCoy. He played as a rookie and got better as the season went on and did a nice job. The question was, could either guy swing and who would be best? It looks like at this point that Ruiz is very capable of playing guard, and you're hearing nothing but good things about him, about his IQ of the game, about his understanding. His physical ability is always there. So it looks like that this setup that we have presently will be the way they're going to line up, with McCoy at center and with Ruiz at guard.
Yeah, look, and I think with Ruiz, when we talked to him after the draft, I mean, he wasn't shy about it. He said he likes to be the guy in charge. He likes to be the one in the middle. He likes to point out the coverages. He likes to do all those types of things. And ultimately, we talked to his offensive line coach. He's the type of guy that, when he was talking about Ruiz, is any type of game day situation, he's got pretty much 99% accuracy to his game. He takes it seriously. He's very intelligent. He can find and look at coverages and be able to point out a lot of things that the opposition is going to do defensively. So, I mean, either way they go. I mean, this is, again, offensive linemen. They probably don't get a ton of credit in the grand scheme of things. And a guy like Ruiz, I mean, you're looking at that right side of the offensive line with McCoy, Ruiz, and Ramczyk. I mean, it's tough to find a set of three guys right now. And obviously hadn't played a game, but on paper, that's stacked. And you got Armstead on the other side and Pete. And this Saints offensive line, I mean, I remember the days where it was a struggle. Breeze didn't have enough time to pass, and he didn't have enough time to go through his progressions and reads. And so, again, I feel good about that. And it's not just the pass protection, but I think when you look at running the football, whether it's Kamara, whether it's Latavius Murray, I think this offensive line is really going to be able to push open some holes, and they're going to lean a lot on that right side. They did last year with Ramczyk, and they got by fine with Warford. And I think Ruiz is only going to bring extra elements to this game. And I think that the Saints offenses likes to play that quick tempo. They want to do the screens. They want to get them offensive linemen downfield. And Ruiz is agile and athletic enough and definitely quick to be able to get off that line and do whatever the Saints need him to do.
John Hendrix with us, talking about the New Orleans Saints. What's your read on bringing in Ethan Wolf? Is it simply security, bodies? Is it a concern about Josh Hill? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, with Hill, obviously, so from hearing it could be some type of quad issue. Again, that's probably the concern. Is there's something potentially there, and they want to bring him in as a precaution. I mean, Peyton had some pretty good things to say about him today. He said he's a good inline blocker, but they're trying to use him more as a development guy, and he can catch passes out. So I wouldn't put too much stock in those. I mean, again, they're going as fast as they bring somebody in like that, they can release him as soon as Hill's back. So I wouldn't be too concerned about Josh Hill. I think he's going to be just fine. And Sean Payton loves Josh Hill. I remember him last year talking about how he's got some 40-something plays on game day that involve him specifically. So again, it's those are two real big concerns you have through the first stages of camp is him and Andres Pete, and good things. I don't think there's anything serious there from what we hear, and so hopefully it stays that way. But for him, maybe it's the Tennessee pipeline, maybe it's a couple of things involved, but we'll just see. I mean, if you have more sample size, if we had a preseason, if you had so many other elements, then maybe your evaluation of these players would be a lot better and a lot stronger and be able to really say, hey, this is the guy who's going to make the 53. But guys like that come in late like that, tough for them to crack the roster, but not impossible.
Another position that's certainly interesting to me is wide receiver. I think we probably agree that Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Traquan Smith, and Deontay Harris will be on this team. And then who? Emmanuel Butler had a good camp last year, doing some things in camp this year. Austin Carr's a veteran player. Benny Fowler is a veteran player. Drew Brees likes him. Jordan Humphrey showed some ability last year. Jawan Johnson's a big target as well as a hybrid-type player. I know we don't talk about fifth receivers very much, but do you see the same four making it for sure and then a battle for that fifth spot?
Yeah, look, I think, obviously Traquan Smith, what I would say is I think this is his year. He's got to turn this on, and, as Sean Payton would say, sooner rather than later. And I know Mickey Loomis and a lot of the guys like him. It's just the consistency is what we got to get from Traquan Smith. And I don't know, maybe bringing in a guy like Emmanuel Sanders helps kind of take some of that pressure off of Smith. And, there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed in the Saints offense, but they always find a way, right? And so, look, I think with Deontay Harris, just hearing Sean Payton talk about him today, they're trying to find more roles and ways to use him. He's their return guy, right? So I don't think they're going to use him for, 50, 60 offensive snaps, but I think they'll have some plays and packages designed specifically for him. I don't know if I'd say he's a legitimate number 4 wide receiver or 5 wide receiver, maybe 5, I guess you could say. But begs the question with the way you shape out this roster, how do you build those pieces and to get to that 53, right? And so Benny Fowler, I think the endorsement from Breeze is a huge thing, obviously, and he's a guy, he's a veteran guy. He's played with now his 4th Hall of Fame quarterback, right? He played with both Mannings. He played with Tom Brady a little bit, and who's going to be headed for the Hall of Fame, obviously. And then now it's Drew Brees. And so, look, he's the type of guy at his stage, and for a guy coming in like that, said it today, said, hey, I'm just looking to do whatever I can to help the team, make the team. If he's going to be more of a blocker, great. He could be used inside or outside. So you got to love players like that. But for the other ones, I think Jawan Johnson was one of those guys that I like to see a lot more of. Don't know if this is the year that you get somebody like that on the 53. But, with the practice squad size expanded, I think he has a good shot into the future. But, guys like Austin Carr, they've been around for a while, and, he's going to have to beat out somebody like a Fowler probably who's got the early edge, in my opinion.
And then, of course, another wild card is Ty Montgomery, because veteran running back certainly can play this roster, came into the league as a wide receiver. Sean Payton said today he could line up outside as well as line up at running back. So you have some flexibility there with another guy that could possibly line up at wideout.
Yeah, and look, Ty Montgomery just wants to play. He was pretty adamant. He just wants the chance. He wants the opportunity. I think he's found the right fit as far as an organization goes. Peyton said that they've been using him primarily at running back, but obviously he has that versatility that the Saints love to have. And, look, I still – the thing is, when you shape out the 53, special teams matters, obviously. And a guy like Dwayne Washington, he's not going to get you 500 yards on the ground. He's not going to make that huge impact. He might get a couple of carries a season. He might get a few things here and there in the return game, but he's a special teams core player. And, that's a big reason why he's been on the roster, right? And I think he's kind of got the sense that he's going to be the guy, but it begs the question, hey, you're going to already carry Michael Burton. You got Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara. Ty Montgomery has a spot. Are you going to roll with a less of a wide receiver because of Ty Montgomery, what he brings to the table? Or do you cut it off on some other position? I think that's just a strategic part of the game when you build out that roster when it's time for cutdowns is, maybe you can slide some extra guys in the practice squad you didn't think you could have just because of the expanded size and the requirements. But somebody like Montgomery, obviously he's going to, we know what he brings to the table, and just the offenses that he's been in hasn't been the best since he's left Green Bay. So I think with the Saints, he has a real good chance to make some good things happen if they choose to go that direction.
I agree. John Hendrix visiting with us. And as far as the defense is concerned, I thought the comments today regarding Sheldon Rankins and Marcus Davenport were very encouraging. These are both players that are very important investment first-round guys who must put up or shut up. Rankins, we've seen the ability, but the injuries have really curtailed him. Davenport, the injury last year. The Saints gave up a lot to get him. This is their year, both of them. And the comments that emanated from their coach today were very positive.
Yeah, look, and that's what you want to hear, right? And Rankins is unfortunate with his injury history, and again, you can't. Rankins has done a lot for this team, right? And they brought in Malcolm Brown last year, and him and David Onyemata tended to be the starting pair, and I don't know if that's going to change at all this season, but I think Rankins obviously is going to get his opportunities, and with Davenport, you don't have a ton of people behind you that are going to threaten. Obviously, what you have with Cam Jordan, and Davenport's coming off a pretty good season. But, again, hearing the different comments from the coaching staff is definitely encouraging. And, I think Sean Payton just saying today he's pleased with his shape. He's pleased with the progress from last season with him being hurt, and obviously ended up on IR. But, the big thing is he's working on his technique. And so I think you've seen plenty of glimpses of what he brings to the table. And I think his sample size has been really good. It's just that, hey, and I think people forget, last year they had the Saints collectively, they had the most sacks in the Sean Payton era that they've had. And it was the most they've ever put up since 2001. So, good things are happening there. Ryan Nielsen is one of those underlooked coaches that, that you just don't think of a lot when you think about how this defensive line has come in. You still have guys that rotate in, like your Trey Hendrickson, like your Mario Edwards Jr. You may get some extra production from a guy like Carl Grandison or a veteran like Marcus Hunt, and you see what happens there. So it'll be interesting to see. But look, those two first-rounders, you said it, the hefty price and the hefty expectations. Look at Vic Beasley, a guy like that in Tennessee right now. A lot of things going on there. So pass rushers, your job is to get after that quarterback and be set the edge on the runs and such. So, look, I think Davenport has it in him to be a stellar guy this season. Same thing with Rankins. So we'll see what happens. And, you got to feel good about what with the Saints defensive line with the returning cast they have.
Yeah, might see more blitzing than accustomed to seeing this year because of the confidence in corners, having Jack Rabbit Jenkins back there to go along with Marshawn Lattimore. And you got two guys that can play the slot and really be hybrid players, and P.J. Williams and, of course, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So I think they feel good about their coverage guys, and they feel good about having Malcolm Jenkins back there to get people lined up right and to coach them up, so to speak, with Marcus Williams as well. So in all likelihood, because of the confidence in this secondary, they are likely to blitz a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the best part about we heard from a lot of players today, and I think Demario Davis hit it perfectly. Because he did work. He was talking about how he's done work with Malcolm Jenkins ever since he entered the league with the NFLPA coalition, all that good stuff that they're working on. And, he's just quick to point out that, hey, how's it different is after a play, him and Jenkins are on the same page. They can talk about what they saw in coverages and what they saw on the play, whereas, Davis said with younger guys, it's not really like that. And so, with Dennis Allen, he's going to send linebackers. He sent Demario Davis and A.J. Klein a lot, and, Klein's not here any longer, obviously, and that's going to be probably a Zach Bond type thing that he's going to be asked to do. So, look, the secondary on paper, I felt good when they had – or pretty good when they had Lattimore and Apple back there, but with Jenkins coming in and a veteran guy he is and his sample size, I mean, Lattimore and Jenkins are easily the best cornerback duo this team's had since Jabari Greer and Tracy Porter. I mean, it's just been a long time coming, and with Williams in there, back there with Jenkins, I think that's great. You got DJ Swearinger, a veteran that you can rely on if something crazy happens, and then with C.J. Gardner-Johnson or T.D. Deuce, if he wants to go by now, him and T.J. Williams have that versatility. I think that again, it's safe to have become a team. I don't think they're the first, obviously, but they have become a model team where players come in here, and it doesn't matter what your position really says. You're going to be asked to do 1,000 different things, and they just really covet that versatility. So it's just with linebackers, you're not just a true middle Mike guy. You're going to play Willie, you're going to play Sam, and same thing with the secondary. You're going to play free, you're going to play strong safety, you're going to move up, you're going to do a lot of different things, and that's the design of the defense, is to confuse the offense as much as they can and keep them guessing. So I think they've got probably as good a secondary as they've had in years, maybe a decade.
Anzalone back, Alonzo still out. They went out and got Nigel Bradham. Of course, they drafted Zach Baum. I know Demario Davis will be one of their linebackers, and very often, of course, they'll line up in two linebacker sets. Who do you think the other starter is going to be? Is it going to be Bradham, or do you think they'd give the keys to Bond early on?
I think Bond's a guy that again, you have to watch. And again, I'll just go back to Demario Davis, what he said today, just because it's fresh and it's perspective, right? And one of the things he said, he talked about C.D. Deuce or C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I know it's going to take some getting used to, but talked about one of the best things that he did when he came in his rookie season is he simplified the game. He didn't overcomplicate things. And he talked about Vaughn. It's going to be asked a lot to do, but the biggest thing for him is to simplify the things and just roll with it and not try to overcomplicate what's being asked of him. And so, look, I think Bradham is a great veteran pickup at this point of the game. I think he can come in here and do a lot of different things for the Saints. I think it's a great insurance policy to have. Alonzo's rehabbing. Anzalone, the durability has always been the question. So he looks great when he's out there. He gives him speed. He gives him a lot of different things. I think he would be the nickel option probably with Demario Davis this season, just depending on what Dennis Allen wants to do. But it gives him the option to do that. But, look, you have to see what happens. But with a guy like Bradham, I think he has the ability to start from day one if they choose to go that way. But I think it'll be Vaughn and Anzalone coming in and probably starting around there. And then they'll have some good reserve options behind them, too.
Indeed, they certainly have more depth as you look across the landscape of their overall team, offense, defense, otherwise, if healthy, of course. That's a big qualifier, to say the least. You can follow him on Twitter at John J. Hendrix, and always enjoy reading your work. John, thank you so much for the time this evening, and stay safe, stay well, and let's hope we're watching a football game here very soon.
Oh, man, I hope so, and I appreciate the well wishes. Same thing to you, Ken. Appreciate you having me as always.
All right, John, it's my pleasure. It's John Hendrix, SI.now, does a great job for them, among other entities.